I'm not going to waste too much time. He's the founder of, if I can put it, Iota Ministries. Apart from that, also, he's the resident pastor of Word Faith Chapel. My brother, God bless you so much for coming up. And I pray we are blessed.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. And I bless the Lord for the lives of every one of you here. It's always a wonderful thing to share what you know in the name of the Lord with people around you. And when, my brother Kaiser called me, he said we should talk about thriving forward amidst financial hardships. And it is consequent to the discussion we had the last time when we did a little bit of the forecast for the year.
Yes.
And looking at what the times require and the steps that we have to take so that you are able to make it. Now, I always like to tell people, especially the people of the faith, is that when you get an accurate prophet to give you an accurate word, you need to get an accurate mentor to give you an accurate deed. The problem is that we have prophets in ministry and no mentors in industry. So you have an Issachar rendition that tells you of what is coming, but you don't have a Zebulun direction that tells you how to capitalize on it. If you get an accurate person in ministry, he will give you an accurate word, but you need to get an accurate mentor in industry. He will give you the accurate deed. The prophet will tell you, I see that the price of gold is going up. That's an Issachar orientation. A Zebulun orientation will tell you that there is an app called so and so that you can use to buy gold from here, even though you are not a national of this country. You see, so if you get an accurate word in the sanctuary, you need to get an accurate mentor in the industry. And for many of us, all we have surrounded ourselves with are accurate prophets. And that is the trouble that the church is facing now. You want a correct word and a correct word of knowledge. A correct word of knowledge is spiritual. A correct act of knowledge is physical. So you need a correct prophet to give you a correct word of knowledge. But when you come into industry, you need a correct mentor, an industrial shepherd, a man that is an accurate act of the accurate word that you have received. So now the first thing I always like to tell people is lift up your eyes and your horizon beyond accurate prophecy. Nobody has become rich by accurate prophecy. Nobody. Everybody that has become rich has used accurate mentorship. So there's an accurate word and there's an accurate act. If you don't find an accurate mentor who compels an act, you're just going to carry colorful prophecy, which doesn't end anywhere. And you and I have to get it. A lot of the times we hear that believe in the Lord your God, you will be established. Then the next thing is believe in his prophet and you will prosper. So people think that all they need to do is to believe what the prophet has said. Now, believing what the prophet has said is not just mental assent. It's not spiritual apprehension of the knowledge. Believing what God has said in the prophetic is looking for the accurate mentor that will bring the act of the accurate word. So you've got to begin to find people who are accurate actors of the accurate words in your life. Utterance must look for performance. So one of the first things that came to me as a moment of lucidity in my financial work was that I got to realize that it is not just insight into scripture that I need to command, prosperity influence. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. The oil will not just be a spiritual inclination. There's got to be a direct physical orientation. You have an accurate prophet who can call where you are staying, call the car you sat in to come to the meeting, call your car number, call the process of your moving from one place to the prophetic meeting. Then he gives you an accurate word that's taking you to a certain destination. If you leave that meeting the same way the prophet was able to give you the details about where you are staying, what you ate, what you wore, and how you came to the meeting, you need another man who is not a prophet, but he is an actor of the prophetic word. He is a mentor in industry, not in ministry. This man will not come and give you accurate words of knowledge. He will give you accurate deeds of knowledge, accurate acts of knowledge. And that man will tell you, log on to this website and read these 4 articles, beat it down to 4 lines in summary, and then write it at a place you can commit to memory. From there, meet me at an office around, let's say, Osu, and make sure you are there 15 minutes before time. You see, the same way the prophet can tell you accurate details by knowledge in word, you need a mentor that can find accurate acts by knowledge indeed. So I've always told people, look at the percentage accuracy of the prophetic word in your life and look for a mentor that is as accurate as the prophecy. Otherwise, you are in debt. Otherwise, you will be in debt. Now, the church is fascinated by profound accuracies of words of knowledge. And the church doesn't know that accuracies don't nurture, they injure if you don't get a place to perform it. And so many people are now asking, is this thing credible? Because when the prophet called my name, called the details and told me the Lord said in 6 months I'll be a millionaire, I thought it was a done deal. Until you find a mentor who is as specific as the prophet you got to speak to you, you are just going around in circles and you will not arrive anywhere. So that's the first lesson I always like to teach people who want to prosper, especially people of the faith. An accurate word must get an accurate deed. So an accurate prophet in ministry must get an accurate mentor in industry. Then you are on your way forward and it will be a blessing. So number 2, we want to understand the times that we are in. And I've always told people that we are in 2024 now. 2024, as it is now. Between now and 2030, we have 7 years to run. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. There are 7 years. If we enter the year 2030, you have 2, let's say, whole figures. You have a 20 and you have a 30.
That's right.
And I keep telling people it is a combination of 2 things, 20 pieces of silver and 30 pieces of silver. So never forget this thing that I'm talking to you about. 20 pieces of silver is the amount of money that Joseph was sold for. 30 pieces of silver is the amount of money that Jesus was sold for. So in the year 2030, we know that there's going to be a selling and a betrayal. It's confirmed. If you have prophetic eyes, you will understand what I am saying. If you have apostolic insight, you will realize that this is going to be the exact paradigm of the times. 20 pieces of silver, Joseph's brothers sold him for. Joseph is a perfect typology of the Messiah, the suffering servant. So now in the year 2030, the world will sell saints and sell the church. We are getting to a place where in 2030, the world will change. Civilization will undergo a very rigid and critical evolution. And it will be so fast and intense that many people will be lost. Now, you and I know that 20 pieces of silver 30 pieces of silver are indicative of a selling of Joseph and the selling of Jesus. If you have read your Bible at all, then you will understand that in Exodus 21:32, 30 pieces of silver was the price of a slave. So from 2030, slavery will come back, but in a certain disguised and colorful form. It will not be like crude colonialism, but there will certainly be the upper hands and the underdogs. And you and I have to decide that financially, innovatively, technologically, we are not going to be the underdogs. So take what I'm telling you very profoundly and let it influence everything you know. If you look at the civilizations and the democracies and the monarchies of the world right now, you can see that all of them are undergoing a shaking. All of them. Recently in Kenya, you can see everything is shaking. Even priests, revered priests, have joined the demonstration. It tells you that between now and 2030, we have just 7 years, and 2024 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is new beginning. So 2024 is an exact mimic of a new beginning, a profound paradigm that is going to unfold from 2030. Now, the price of slavery is the price of slavery, not sympathy. When Joseph was being sold by his brethren, the Bible says, when he was recounting the story and his brothers were remembering, they said, we saw the anguish on his soul, how he begged us, but we didn't listen. From 2030, sympathy is not going to be the reason why something that has been cooked up will not be implemented. Nobody is going to say, oh, have mercy on this fraction of society. No, it's going to be brutal because everything has been cooked up and well made. So then we need a financial paradigm to make sure we are not going to be the underdogs. We are not. We are not. We are not going to be the underdogs. We are going to be the people with the upper hand. I hope you are aware that when Joseph was sold to Egypt, in the long run, Egypt was sold to him because he bought the whole of Egypt for Pharaoh. When the famine came and he was in control, the Egyptians came to him and said, listen, now our food is finished, so let's sell ourselves to you. So when you are a saint with the order of the Joseph anointing, if you are sold into Egypt, it is just so that Egypt will be sold to you. So we are supposed to be positioned in a way that we will command an upper hand, even though there is a diabolic influence to steal the progress of the church and subdue morality and sanity and the fear of the Lord. Because the systems of the world are secular in their orientation and the devil rules. You and I must not be underdogs. I've told you already, after you have gotten an accurate prophet in word, get an accurate mentor in deed. People who can use detailed analysis to tell you, get this, pass here, start this work, invest here. You need those people. So now if we look at the Joseph anointing, the first thing is that in Genesis 37, his father comes to him and he tells him, listen, I want you to go and check up on your brothers for me. But in Genesis 37, the first thing I will leave with you is the fact that Joseph was bringing the evil report of his brothers to his father. Now, get to understand, right, that money is legal tender, but mammon is a deity. So whatever polarity of spirit you use to get money is what determines what the money you get will do to you. So now understand that the first way to make proper money is to make sure there are not evil undertones in the process you use to make your money. Make sure. Many people recently, if you read the news, a former, CEO of billionaire tech company in Nigeria went to stand on his balcony and jumped and committed suicide. Now, before he killed himself, he had called and told his brother how to share his property, and called and told his daughter, any you need me, I'm going to be there. You just have to look up into the skies. You will find me.
Wow.
I find it hard to believe that it is one thing when you have money, and it is another thing when the spirit of the money you got has you. It is two different things. Billionaires hide their stories very well with their money. So you think you know billionaires, but you don't know them. One thing that men use money to do is to hide their stories. Don't be fooled by thinking you know any billionaire because you read his book. One of the major things rich people use their money to do is to hide their story. It is the Bible that doesn't use riches to hide true stories. And that is why even the scandals of the father of faith, Abraham, is written in the Bible. The Bible doesn't use wealth to hide stories, but the world uses wealth to hide stories. So don't think you know rich people. Don't think you know the rich men of this world. You don't know them because they use their monies to hide their stories. What you have in the news is what the news is engineered to have. It is not the truth. So don't be involved in evil mechanics of making money, because mammon is spiritual tender. It is money that is legal tender. Something can have you even though you have money. And if the means by which you are making money is not correct, please abstain. We have seen all sorts of mechanics. And when the world wants to brush away the truth, they say it's conspiracy theory. People sell their souls to the devil and they go to make transactions. And then they sell their conscience to the devil just for money. And because of the cancel culture, truth is suppressed. They come to you and they say, we're giving you an ambassadorial deal, but because you are our brand, don't talk about this issue. Whenever this issue comes, stand for this. If you hear Israel and Palestine, this is the stance you have to take. If you hear transgender and LGBTQ, this is the stance you have to take. If you hear marriage and divorce, this is the stance you have to take. And people are selling conscience to the devil in order to make money. Wash your hands of any underhanded ways of making profit. It is one thing to have money. It is another thing for mammon to have you. So please, make sure you are like a Joseph. Make sure that you have washed your hands of any evil ways of making money. Be like a Joseph.
Be like a Joseph.
The only thing you have to do is to bring the evil report of your brethren to your father and stay clear from it. Don't compromise to make money. Don't sell your conscience. Don't sell your souls. Platinum sales, platinum ranks, and it's just some form of voodoo. It is a secret cult. It is the church of Hollywood. It is the church of this. It's just a brotherhood. Anything that is not plain. The Bible says, for with God, there is no darkness at all. Don't say every money is money. It is an easy statement. To defend that claim, you will need to use your life and you will regret it. So don't say any money is money. That's a very cheap sentence to construct. But to defend that sentence, you will be sentenced to death and you will regret it.
That is serious.
Don't buy that statement that every money is money. Wash your hands off underhanded ways. So that's the first one. Number two, Joseph's father came to him and said, take this food and go and check on your brothers for me. Go and check on your brothers for me. Now, before he gave him the food, you realize that he had given Joseph a coat of many colors. Now, fashion is an inevitable part of society. Even in famine, luxury grows. That's one thing you must understand. That's why in COVID-19, billionaires were made. And if you look at the season when the LVMH luxury industry, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, look at the Bernard Arnault, if you look at the season in which he became the richest man under the sun, when he overtook Gates, overtook Musk, and all, you realize that it was the time when the world was in crisis. Ironically, the man became the richest man with luxury goods in the time of hardships. It tells you luxury grows irrespective of famine. And this is what tells you there are some famines that are engineered. So as for the rich, they have more riches even in the time of hardship. So if you can enter the fashion industry, that's one place. Let me tell you something. In the place where people don't have food to eat, somebody will be wearing the most expensive dress. They will be wearing the most expensive dress for a birthday party. So as for fashion, it will cross out. Trust me. Fashion grew even in the time of famine. Remember, people don't have food to eat. Some people are wearing gold rings. When COVID-19 was taken away and the lockdown was lifted, you saw the way people rushed back to luxury living. People could not wait to come out. In COVID-19, when the churches were shut, the pubs were opened. Luxury living never goes away in the time of famine. It never. So find a way to be involved in a kind of luxury business. It is difficult to target the people who will patronize, but if you scale that resistance and you get clients, even when people are starving to death, luxury goods will be patronized. And that's how come Bernard Arnault became the richest man in the time of economic recession. That is when he became the richest man. How does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. It makes reality. So position yourself well. So get interested in the luxury goods. You will remember that when Joseph's father, Jacob, sent his brothers to go to, they called him the man or the ruler in Egypt, because at that time they didn't know it was Joseph. He said, you need to take gifts to the man, okay, so that he will show us mercy and sell food to us. They took perfumes, they took raisins, they took luxury gifts in the time of famine. In the time of famine, it tells you luxury doesn't fade in the time of famine. It doesn't. It doesn't. So find a way to be involved in the luxury industry. You can take sneakers. People have sold their sneakers to become millionaire. You can just take belt, vest. Some people just do blazers. Some people that just find some innovative thing and involve yourself in it. Create paraphernalia that have status attached to it. Maybe from the roots, from this. Create memorabilia. Anything that people can relate to for a status, they will die for it. And so fashion, that's why Joseph's father gave him a coat of many colors. That's number one. Number two, he sent him with food to go and look for his brothers. Listen, the food industry is the inevitable strength of the next civilization. So remember what I'm about to tell you. It is not coincidence that Bill Gates is among the largest farmland owners in America. What is a man that is in tech doing with farmlands? Yeah. It is you that are addicted to the technology, because dominion is territory. So don't let the Chinese come for your hometown lands. When a man from an Asian continent has acres in your hometown and you don't even know the palace of your chief, you are living in error. You are living in error. A man that does not know your language is sitting with your elders, asking for a payment plan for acres and hectares of land. And you, the indigent, don't know where your palace is. And a lot of us have been told, if you go to your hometown, the witches will kill you. I wonder how the witches are not killing the foreigners who have gone to our hometown, but they will kill we, the sons of the soil, when we go. Pray and go back to your village and go for lands. That's just it. Stop sitting in church and shouting, deep, deep, I receive it, deep, deep, I receive it. It doesn't amount to anything. I said, sit in a car on a weekend and go back to your hometown and get the audacity to go and sit with your elders. If somebody fights for their family land, you go and pay money to them that you are buying land from this area. But you say when you go for your family land, they will kill you. So if the man who is selling the land to you, if you also run away from his family land, afraid that they will kill him, who will you buy land from? You have to answer that question. Who will you buy land from?
That is true.
Many of us are just there. Listen, land is critical. Now, before I get to the land, let me do the food thing. His father told him, listen, you have to take this thing, this food, and go to your brothers for me. So start with companies that are in farming. Farming in itself is very, very tedious. It is technical and it is very difficult, especially when you want to control theft and the labor. So start with established agricultural institutions and invest in them. I don't have big farmlands now, but I have an institution I've invested in, and they do rice. So it's a good place to start from. I like to teach with practicality. I tell you the extent and I tell you the practical means by which I am approaching it. The last time I asked somebody who is very good with stocks to give me the best agricultural companies and stocks that I can invest in. And then I will study what they call do DYR, do your own DYO, and do your own research. You also read, but if you can't farm yourself, make sure you are invested in a company that farms, because the least is that when farming strikes, instead of asking them to give you money, you ask them to give you the food. That's all. If you are
do you mind, not to cut you, but
yeah.
do you mind sharing the company that, like for example, for the farming that you are not doing personally, but a company that you invest in so that they can, if people want to probably look into.
So it is called Insiriwa rice, and they did a lot, rice, maize, but it's called Insiriwa. So somebody spoke to me and I did it. So I did the first one, and then the returns came, and then I rolled over, and I'm in it. You see, is where the world is going. Listen, I'm a pastor. I'm shouting faith, and it is evident to you that I have prophetic insight into the times. So, but behind the scenes, this is what I'm doing. I've found, by the help of someone, a recommended company, and then I am into it. From there, I'm learning my lessons, and I'm going to use that to assess many other companies and go heavy into agricultural, investment. I've asked somebody to give me a feedback on good agri stocks that I can buy, and this person, they are using their knowledge. Later, I can share it. I've not done my research with that, but they create a pie. So when they create a pie and you engineer it, at the end of the month, it takes automatically some funds you deposit in the account and it distributes it. Do you know that when Snapchat shot, I got about, if I'm not exaggerating, 600 euros from the Snapchat, stocks when it went up? Because somebody said it and they sent me an app and I typed in. You see, the problem is in church, we don't talk about these things. What we talk about is, I can never be poor. Then the people shout after us, I can never be poor. I can never be broke. Then the people also shout, I can never be broke. Meanwhile, you are waking up and going to work at 4 a.m. and getting to work at 8 o'clock, 2 hours in a journey every day. And yet I'm sitting somewhere, somebody says, click buy at this time. And I click buy. And after some 6 months or whatever, I have things that have shot up. When NVDA, shot up, I had benefits. And then I was there, and somebody called me and said, it's going to be halved now from $1,200 to $120. So be on the standby and buy some. So I was also on the standby. When the thing came, said the thing is going to come around 12, so and so. So do this and make sure you click by this time. If you get an accurate prophet to give you an accurate word, look for an accurate mentor to give you an accurate deed. Don't forget this thing I'm telling you. The same way the prophet can say 12 hours, 30 seconds, whatever, is the same way somebody can tell you when it is 2 p.m., click buy. And just by clicking buy, everything, is transformed. So that's the one with the food. Agric is powerful. Get farmlands, invest in it. Get agricultural companies, invest in them. And then storage mechanisms of food, warehousing, and preservation technology. You see, recycling, all these things in agri, they are huge. Like I said, if you can't start it, make sure you have invested into it, and it will be a blessing. Next thing, when Joseph was looking for his brothers, Genesis 37:15, he got lost. You see, he got lost. Verse 15, and a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flock. And the man said, they are departed hence, for I heard them say, let us go to those. Now, do you know that, interestingly, when you read this thing, it sounds very spiritual and prophetic. A man found Joseph when he was lost. But do you know that this sounds very much like global positioning systems? This sounds very much like GPS. So if you listen to the conversation, Joseph is lost. He's lost his way. And then a certain man says, I heard your brothers say they are going to Dothan. Now, do you know that at this point in time now, whenever we are conversing, there are devices listening to us? That's where the world has got into now. And every time some technology knows where your child is. Some technology knows where you are. There's something that's always listening to our conversation. But this is GPS, this is artificial intelligence, and this is transport systems, okay, that are in quote advanced or driverless. So if you look at the Teslas and all that, they can go to where you are going if even you don't know that.
Yeah.
You see, so advanced forms of transport, don't take your eyes off. So when you get chance like Tesla, electric vehicles, the EV technologies that are coming, they are all supposed to be strict highways of profit, because that's where the future is pointed towards. So those of us who were doing taxi business, truck business, if you are smart, you will know that the next time you can't be a truck business owner and not have stocks in Tesla. It is an error. It is an error. You cannot have the VIP pass in Ghana and not be invested in an EV company. It is an error. It is an error. So this is where the future is going. Let's align ourselves. I've spoken to you about food. The agri industry has spoken to you about land. Land, please, and please again. Land has to be both sides. The metaverse is land in the air. So make sure you are invested in the metaverse. The metaverse is a community in the skies. Land is a community on the ground. So make sure you have both. Now, a lot of people don't know that we build with wisdom and consistency, not money. Can I tell you something? I've tried both. Trying to say I need this money to build and actually getting so frustrated, I go and start the project. And I realize that starting is better than ever planning to start. Listen, when you get some laborers to go and dig the outline of your house, when you get on the field and you realize the ground is cleared of weeds, there's another vim that comes for you to follow through with the project. So push yourself. How you will finish, nobody knows. That's why it is called a project. But get it started. Too many saints have died tenants, and it is an error. Do you know that the promise God gave the children of Israel was a land? Canaan was a land. It was not a word. It was a land. Canaan was not a sermon. It was a land. So Eden was not a sermon. Eden was a land. Understand that you will need a certain dimension of discipline. You would rather make payment for a good land than for a good phone. So start this thing and make sure you are getting territory when it comes to land. And all these things need disciplines, but make sure it is started. To use audacity, go and talk to someone who can show you a credible source. Go and negotiate for a payment plan. Don't accept the fact that I don't have, so I can't own a land. No, it is an error to be a wanderer. So make sure you own the land. If you can't afford it in the expensive areas, go to the affordable areas and start from there and work your way back into the expensive, epicenter. It is something that will be a blessing to you. You speak in tongues in church for 10 years and you have never negotiated over a land. There is an error. There is a margin of naivety, and you think it is your tongue speaking that will secure you. It will not. Eventually, you will be at the mercy of corrupt secular systems that have no regard for your faith. Eden was not a prophecy. Eden was a land. So as a child of promise, get a land. It will change everything. Do you know that even the smartphones we are holding and everything, they are all from the soil. Silicon is from the ground. It's from sand. Dominion is territorial. Never forget this thing I'm telling you. Somebody is buying your family lands and telling you to be addicted to a screen. And you think that you are smarter because you spend more time to a screen. When the screen was dug from the soil, I always tell people, man was made from dust. So the least thing man must own is land, because you were created from dust. How is it that the place from which they formed you, you don't own anything there? You are a son of the soil. Own the soil. It's as simple as that. Own the soil. Use a discipline and own the soil. Now, I want us to go to Genesis 47. Let's rise to Genesis 47. Yeah. 21. Let's do from 21 to 24, please.
21 to 24. So 21 says, and as for the people, he moved them into the cities from one end of the borders of Egypt to the other end. 22. Only the land of the priest he did not buy, for the priest had rations allotted to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their rations which Pharaoh gave them. That's interesting. Therefore, they did not sell their lands. 23. Should I continue?
Yeah.
23. Then Joseph said to the people, indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. 24. And it shall come to pass in the harvest that you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, for 1/5 shall be your own, as seed for the field, for your own food, for those of your household, and as food for your little ones.
Hallelujah. Very interesting. Joseph bought all the land in Egypt, but only the priest's land he couldn't buy. Are you aware that as a priest, your greatest security is land? As a child of God, sons of the faith, do we know that our greatest security is land? Do you know why somebody will come from another continent and he's not interested in anything in your nation but the lands at your family house? Do you know why? The greatest security is land. So don't be a priest without a land. When Joseph was buying, it was a monarchical statute that he could buy every land, but the priest's land, Pharaoh had ruled, you can't buy the land of the priest. Every man of God that shouts, I can never be poor, is well invested in lands. If you like, find out. Now you follow pastors and prophets who chant, I can never be poor. And yet they have accountants, but you don't. But you are chanting, I can never be poor with them. Let's not be naive in a vacuum. The priest land was their security. Even in ancient heathenism, they knew that if you are a priest, your greatest security by attachment to a monarchy is land. You've got to make sure, as for this question mark, you erase it from your life. Erase it. You are a son of the soil. Own the soil, period. Case closed. Don't an argument, land is expensive. My brother, you know too much and you will pay for it. Humble yourself. Erase this shame from your life. You are a son of the soil. Own the soil. That's it. Case closed. Dominion is territory. Don't forget this thing. If you have people online, you have fans. If you have people on the ground, then you have a kingdom. It's two different things. Dominion is territory. If you have people online, you only have fans. At the click of a software, your empire can vanish. If you have people, do you know that sovereignty just means borders of a land? Are you aware that when we say sovereign nation, the only thing it means is that it is borders on a land. So when we say this is what do you call it? The consulate, like if we go to the U.S. embassy, now, do you know that if you are a national of Ghana and you commit a crime and the police are chasing you and you enter the U.S. embassy, do you know the police cannot follow you and come and catch you? Because the U.S. embassy is not Ghana. The U.S. embassy is not Ghana. Yes. It's not Ghana. So when we say sovereignty, sovereignty is borders of a land. That's all it means. If you have followers online, you have fans. If you have people on the ground, then you have a kingdom. Then you have sovereignty. You are a son of the soil. Own the soil. This thing where we are casual, we think we can explain everything away. Let's make it a thing of the past. So the immunity that the priest had was with their lands. Joseph could buy everything but not touch the land of the priest. Now I take it to the next level. So now he says, the people come to him, they say, sir, all our things are finished. You have bought all of us. You have bought all of us. That's why I'm telling you, slave trade will come back again, but it will come back very sophisticated. The systems of the world will be so tightened that people will have to offer themselves to be underdogs just to survive. That's why you don't have to take these preparations loosely. Be in the process of becoming an upper hand. Don't sleep, learn, fight your way through. So the last thing I'm talking to you about is the people brought themselves to Joseph and he bought all of them. Then the next thing was that he said, I'm going to give you seed, okay, from the selling or the transaction we have done. Now take the seed and go and sow the seed. Now when the seed increases, in other words, when you get profit in Kaiser's version, it said when it happens that the harvest comes, you see, in the harvest, you have to divide the harvest into 5 equal parts. And this is a financial model that Joseph used to sustain the civilization at that time with that rigorous dimension of famine. So this is a tested and a tried system of financial empowerment. And he was now sharing the secret to them. Remember, Egypt was one of the most sophisticated civilizations. Yeah. And Joseph had been able to maintain, the systems for 7 years plus. And he was now telling them, this is the wisdom that you have to use. Whenever you have a harvest, divide it into 5. The increase must be divided into 5 parts. And then he said, 1/5 must go to Pharaoh. Whenever you have money, you have profit. 1/5 must go to the king. And the 1/5, if you have 100, 1/5 is 20. So if you have every 100, change it into 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. The first 1/5 goes to with taxes and tithings.
Do you mind going back
whenever
for us?
You get money,
Your
there is 1/5.
The first 1/5.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Let's go back again. The first 1/5 is to the king. So he said, and it shall come to pass in the increase that he shall give the 5th part unto Pharaoh. So the 5th part is to the king, allegiance to the state. This is taxing. This is taxation. This is what do you call it? Your petty sovereignty deductions. Okay, so taxes and all those things from source, blah blah blah. And then I always like to tell people, in this also the mechanism of your tithe can be included, because the tithe is also to the king, pretty much the same way like the tax is to the earthly king, the tithe is to the heavenly king. Okay, so I tell people, if you do 10%, to the taxes, you can do 10% to the tithe, and you are safe, because the first faith is the 20%. Okay, good. Now over here, you plan things well. You have tithings, you have offerings, and you have taxes. You have binding commitments. The problem is that Christians think that every seed must go to the altar. Now let me tell you this as a man of God, and let me tell you very plain. The seed of the altar is not the seed of the field. They are two different things. The seed is the seed. And I don't have time. I would have gone into the protocol of the seed. And maybe later I'll share that sermon, the ordinance of the seed. When we say seed, it's a jargon we use in church, but many people don't even understand it. So the seed of the field is different from the seed of the altar. The seed of the altar is supposed to provoke an aura of abundance. The seed of the field is supposed to be the mechanism by which the aura gets something to multiply. When you put the seed of the field on the altar, you end up with poverty and a painful lesson. There's a lot that people not apprehended. They think that the seed of the altar must always do what the seed must be on the field. If I give you 1,000 CDs and I say to you, go and do a business with this, and then turn it into 10,000 people so we can feed 10 people. And you go and give the 1,000 CDs to one person and say you are a philanthropist. It is not true. You are a wicked person, because you just killed 9 people for one. That's what we are doing in our churches. The seed of the field is not supposed to be on an altar. The money you are supposed to go and use to start a business is not supposed to be given to a prophet, because the prophet is not a field. He's a representation of an altar. So if you give money to a prophet, it must be seed designated for the altar, not seed designated for the field.